and visual technologies to open up our minds. To talk to you about that is the founder and CEO of a company called Transmira, which has a platform called Omniscape. As he said at many other conferences I've spoken with him at in the past, he is the man from the future. Please welcome Robert Rice.
Oops. Okay, let's admit it, the whole man from the future thing is super cheesy, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's not just me. Okay, cool. So I've been listening to some of the sessions and talking to people inside and outside. So I'm going to use my deck as a rough guide, but I'm probably going to step away from it quite a few times. So long story short, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with the word Metaverse and NFT by this point. Yes? Anybody not know what it is? No? Okay, thank you, Paul. We're just going to pretend that Paul's not here. Okay, so, and I respect Paul very much. All right, so moving on. So I'm here to talk about XR Metaverse stuff, but particularly with BSV and blockchain in mind. So what is XR? I'm sure everybody's heard of VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality. VR is pretty much you going somewhere else, like a created world, like a Second Life or World of Warcraft. AR is very much like Minority Report or like Iron Man's, heads-up display, or Pokemon Go if you've seen that. So it's like adding graphics and 3D things to the world around you. XR is all of it together. Mostly, I got tired of telling people AR plus VR plus IoT plus CV plus AI plus ML. Okay, let's just say XR because it sounds cooler. So that's XR. My company is building, I guess, the foundation for the XR Metaverse. You hear a lot of people claiming that they're this Metaverse that, the Metaverse, a Metaverse, games are Metaverses, blah, blah, blah. Anything that's pretty much 3D and interactive is part of the ultimate Metaverse. And if you extend that definition out further and think about the world around us and every sensor, every bit of data, every bit of anything remotely digital, we're surrounded by a lot of invisible stuff now. This is all too part of the Metaverse, but nobody's quite tapped into it yet. And these are some things that we plan on doing. And in our case, for the platform that we're building called Omniscape, we're blending things together. So it's not just AR or VR, it's AR and VR and the real world together with other things. And I'll explain all this in a minute. This is my fun little equation, because again, I get tired of saying everything, so just XR. One of the things that makes us a little bit different is how we kind of treat things. So for most people, AR is over here on a spectrum and VR is over here on a spectrum. But for us, we make it more like a vertical stack, where we start with the location in the real world and we build up. So here you are, then data, then AR, then 3D, then VR, and kind of this whole, it's all related. Which, if you think about things that way, suddenly a lot of really amazing things are possible and doable that you couldn't do before. So for example, if we have a 3D copy of this room where we're all in right now, we'll call that a digital twin. And if you guys all have our app on your phones, I've got your GPS coordinates, so I know where everybody's sitting in here. So if I know that, I can have a 3D VR space that somebody remotely in another city can log into, just like a game, World of Warcraft, whatever, create an avatar, and then we can have each of us in here represented there, because I know where you're sitting at in these chairs, so it's nice and accurate. But what's really cool is if I know where they're at in the virtual world, because it's linked and it's a digital twin, I could have an AR hologram of them here walking around the room like they're actually here that you can interact with. And this kind of blending back and forth between the real world and augmented reality and virtual reality has potential to change pretty much everything that we know in every industry and every application, particularly when you start blending in monetization and cool, fun things like blockchain to help keep track of everything. Yeah, fun, pretty graphic. It's cool. If anybody wants my deck, by the way, just track me down afterwards and I'll give it to you. So there's a lot of really cool, amazing things that we're going to do, but to really do it well and to make it possible and feasible, we need blockchain. And unfortunately, there's a lot of blockchains out there that are not well suited for this. To do our job properly, we're going to have to ingest a tremendous amount of data from IoT devices, from users, from just 3D content. I mean, it's crazy. And even with transactions and monetization, it's just an extraordinary amount of stuff that we have to do very quickly and fast. And no other chain can handle this. Fortunately for us, BSV can. It's fast, it's scalable, and it's very inexpensive. And it gives us the things that we need: security, trust, verification, so on and so forth. Why is this important? Well, one of the things that we're doing, which we actually have a fancy patent on, Yay. We're basically linking 3D objects in the virtual world and in the real world to things in the real and physical world. So if you've ever played, say, Pokemon Go, for example, imagine instead of looking for and hunting for Pokemon, you find a 3D Starbucks coffee cup, floating in space in augmented reality. That is going to be an NFT. It's a unique object. It comes from somewhere. It's unique. We can track it, all this sort of fun stuff. But you can collect it, pick it up, go over to Starbucks, walk up to the counter, and then exchange it or redeem it for a free coffee. That linking between that 3D object in virtual digital space to something that's physical in the real world space is like this. It's a huge bridge. It's a change of things. So instead of having an NFT that just points to a JPEG, imagine if you treat an NFT like a bearer bond. Owning the NFT, this 3D object, is equal to owning its real world corollary, or what its digital twin do. Having it on blockchain helps us avoid things like fraud and other issues. It's easy to hack games. Can you imagine if I suddenly had to pay people 1,000 Starbucks coffee cups or 10, 100,000 Teslas because we have to be running a contest and somebody hacked it? It would be pretty bad. But if it's on blockchain and it's NFT and we've been tracking everything, we can prove and validate that it's real. And it also gives us a huge amount of data to feed back to the brand that we may be partnering with. I've already talked about all this stuff. More pretty graphics. Also, key and critical here is identity. Who you are is very important, as well as where you are and what's around you. And now with the internet, there's so much anonymity and people are all over the place and we hate each other and Twitter's a disaster. But if there was a way for you to be able to track and confirm somebody's identity, even if they're using an alias, there still has to be an initial root somewhere that you can protect privacy, but also have some level of responsibility to things that you're doing. And I'm just now noticing I have this in front of me, which is kind of fun. So we're going to be building a whole avatar registry. So not only are we going to do some really fun things with your identity that you'll be able to track and control and manage, but we're also going to give you a really wicked, cool, customized avatar that's yours and yours alone. You can monetize it, you can play with it, has all kinds of extensible dynamic properties, but it's going to be part of how you are represented in the new metaverse. As I mentioned before, location. A lot of these other metaverse things tend to be games or virtual worlds or some other kind of a novelty experience. We're trying to take all this and build it off of the real world first. I think that the metaverse and all the cool, potential that it has to be tied back to the real world in some fashion for it to be, useful and practical. And this is kind of where we're focusing. Obviously, commerce. If you don't have a way to monetize things, whether it's for a business, a brand, a consumer, a content creator, I think all these metaverse type concepts tend to just be, again, more games, more entertainment oriented, and don't have any long lasting value. But if it's powered by Bitcoin SV, we've got great blockchain stuff on here. We've got the trust, the identity, all this other sort of stuff. If we really focus in on monetization as well as the cool experience, as well as the data, then I think you end up with something that can grow and scale and really attract a lot of people. Do I have an error on this slide? I do, apparently. Okay, well, it says creation. We'll just ignore the rest. So yeah, more pretty graphics. But again, part of building out this platform, we can do content all day long, but I think it's really powerful when we give regular users the tools, whether it's a high-end, pro, graphic artist, or if it's just grandma putting together some basic polygons and doing some fun sort of things. Being able to create content, create NFTs, create experiences, the more we can enable and facilitate, again, whether it's a brand or a regular person, I think it's better. And then when you combine user content creation with very easy and fast monetization, you end up with something that's very sticky and very defensible and very built for sustainability. Metaverse economics, that kind of makes sense. So we've got some pretty interesting things going on. As I mentioned, virtual goods and our version is basically 3D NFTs. Every bit and piece of what we're building with Omniscape is effectively going to be an NFT. It's like our atomic unit. We're going to have a marketplace, so you'll not only be able to create stuff, but buy, sell, and trade, which is kind of obvious. That's going to be pretty cool, though. Here's some quick graphics, because I know some of you guys are starting to get sleepy on me, because I am such an exciting and fun guy. So some of our characters and holograms will be AI-driven. They'll be responsive and interactive with you, which means they're great for customer service, or their entertainment, other sort of fun things. We have some dynamic content that changes based on who it's interacting with and what the situation or the context is. And then, of course, our branded 3D virtual goods. Give us another year, and you're going to start seeing 3D objects all over the place that you're going to want to pick up when you see one. We also have a really nifty, cool virtual real estate sort of elements built in. Like a lot of other people, yes, you can buy real estate. But what's really cool about us is when somebody like a Starbucks comes along and says, hey, we want to put down a whole lot of 3D Starbucks coffee cups to give away to people, they're going to pay for that, but we will do a revenue share back with whoever happens to own those locations, which is kind of cool and fun for those speculators. But if you think about somebody like a mall owner, what's his job? His job is to get foot traffic in the door so he can revitalize his mall. So if he's got the digital real estate for his mall and all of his tenants are out creating campaigns, dropping branded virtual goods everywhere to get those consumers in the door to get discounts and offers and special whatever, this ends up being a really nice virtuous cycle where everybody's benefiting. The people that own the property, people speculating on the virtual real estate, the businesses, the brands, and the consumers. So there's a whole pretty cool model here. We were supposed to launch this like 2 months ago. Give me like 2 more weeks and I promise it will be live. I promise. Otherwise, you guys can throw tomatoes at me at CoinGeek. And last bit, so we're doing some other crazy things. So there's 2 important dates this year. The first one is CoinGeek in New York coming up here soon in a few weeks. The second one is going to be at CES in January in Las Vegas. We're going to be announcing and releasing some really cool stuff at CoinGeek, and then we're going to drop a huge technology earthquake on everybody come CES. And it's all going to be BSV powered, and there's going to be at least one well-recognizable mass market consumer brand that we're going to be working with. It's going to be, I really want to talk about it so bad, you have no idea. But I'm going to refrain. I feel free to buy me a beer and try to bribe me later, but I'm not going to tell you.
Questions for our man from the future? Anyway, well, nobody asked. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I didn't talk about, okay, we're doing a lot of cool things. I have amazing cool people working with us. But so last, I guess in Zurich, so we did some fun stuff there. And one of the cool things that we had on the little special edition of the app that we kind of had for the conference, we had, it was like a little augmented reality unicorn.
They built essentially augmented reality app for a conference. So if you were running around the conference, you could pick up virtual items like sponsor logos that represented actually Bitcoin. You would go to your Bitcoin wallet and there was dragons flying around and aliens and everything else from your dreams. Dragons, aliens, and
what's interesting is they just had like basic animation. Like they didn't do much. They weren't there for anything more than just kind of fun, right? But we're taking those all to another step. So they're all going to be tokenized NFTs, unique and everything, plus a lot more animation. We're basically branding them as meta pets, and we're going to be throwing in some really cool AI behind it. So that cool little alien that you had or the little unicorn, they will now follow you around and interact with you. And then if your friend's got one.
So you're creating digital stalkers.
Digital stalkers. So Anna wants it. Oops. That's the industrial call. He can wait a minute. So do you
want me to talk to him for you and say give you money?
I'm pretty sure they're going to. So Anna will have an alpaca. You can have I don't know
what would you give me?
Whatever you would like.
Let me think about that.
Okay, we'll come back to that. But they'll be able to interact, and you can pet them and feed them and do other sort of fun things. But there's
now, why would people want one of these? Let's just kids might want them. Like I try to be an adult most of the time. Why would I want one of these?
Because it's an NFT and it's unique and it's cool, but it does stuff. And whether it's a cool little dragon or a 3D the anime girl or whatever you want, like it's a 3D character. So
we can not talk about you and the 3D anime girls.
Don't ask questions. Okay. No, but there's a lot here, and it's like the idea that I can have an intelligent character that I can work with. You know what? It's kind of like having Siri, but having a hologram of Siri that follows you around.
What it was like a Star Trek hologram assistant.
Right. Yeah. So early on, it's basic behaviors and stuff, but then we keep adding to it. It becomes more and more AI driven. And then it's like when you think about, okay, well that's cool.
So when people say they need to clone themselves so they could do more, now you
enable it. So that could happen. But what's really interesting is it's like, what are the other implications of having these type of stuff? Yeah, we'll make a ton of money selling them, and they're cool and they're customizable and all that. But if you think about and this is one example I like.
Do they have rights as a person?
In some countries, I believe Saudi actually has been experimenting with that sort of thing. But if you think about kids, for example, that are super shy, right? I was bullied in high school. Then I got older and I got my revenge. But when you've got a younger kids, maybe in elementary school or maybe whatever, and then now you've got people that are worried about masks and distancing, it's hard enough developing social skills, right? But if you think about the days with like, the Pogs came out, or the Garbage Pail Kids, or even like the early Pokemon stuff, giving kids something, the ability to talk about that their friends are interested in and whatever, it gives them an opening, right? Like, hey, look, I got the rare card, I got this, or I got that. But in this particular case, I could have a cool little rare like meta pet that wants to interact with yours. So let's have them out, while we're at the cafeteria or something. It becomes a point where somebody that's shy or quiet or is trying to develop has a way to interact with other children in almost a vicarious sort of fashion. My pet really likes your pet. They're getting along. Look at that, they're friends now. Well, if they're friends, shouldn't we be friends too? Or if you think about things from I'll wrap up real quickly. Yeah. From even another perspective, let's say you've got a child that's been through a traumatic experience or something. Being able to have an external, like a therapist or a psychologist or a law enforcement officer, kind of log into that digital twin environment and then interact with the child through like a meta pet.
It's an emotional support dog.
Or emotional support dog in a place where I can't have pets. There's so many other angles to this, and like this is what we think about when we try to develop these technologies. It's not always about making money, it's about making the money. But it's also about how do we do this in a way that
can make money in a way that's useful and good.
Useful and like practical and long term. Like I'm trying to build the actual future in a way
because you are the man from the future, as I told you. All right, one last question over here.
Have you run into any legal issues representing real world assets in the digital world?
Right, yeah.
Only in the sense that I get asked that question a lot, and I have a very good answer for it that takes me 4, 5, or 6 minutes to explain. So I will happily go into more detail.
Got it. But it's alive as a former intellectual property lawyer myself. Yeah, I can think of all my old former clients, ready to crack that. But luckily, you take part of your revenue model is having advertisers sponsor things into the virtual world, like a Starbucks cup that becomes something you redeem. You pick up as a virtual item. So that is obviously one way to deal with it.
I have a very good answer. I don't expect any issues. And it's if you're interested in it, it's actually a very interesting conversation to have, and I can totally geek out about it. So.
Yeah. We know you can geek out about a lot of things, man, for the future. True. So go see him outside after he does his call.
After my call.
And let's all wish him luck with his investor call, all right?
Thank you.
Go get some money there. All right.